What if I told you there was a Spider-Man film so bad it makes Spider-Man 2017 look amazing? Impossible, right? Wrong. I'm talking about Spider-Man Lotus. Now, when I say this was the worst piece of media I've ever taken in, I mean it. But what makes this film so bad, you ask? Well, pretty much everything. The star actor saying the N-word again and again. The director also said the N-word and more racist stuff.
Hold on, I got a Ku Klux Klan member on my page. Let me block this Ku Klux Klan member.
But let's just say, for some reason we put aside these facts, separated the art from the artist, and looked at the actual movie. So that's what I did. I sat through the worst 2 hours of my life and watched this film from start to finish. I can say with 100% confidence, this movie is shit. The movie starts off with Spider-Man fighting the Shocker, and he makes one of the worst quips I've ever heard.
Oh no!
What?
What are you wearing?
It's my shocker suit.
Your shocker suit. That's what you're calling.
I don't know why they gave him zero personality, but that's the only bit of actual Spider-Man you're going to get. Because the rest of this movie is an absolute snooze fest. Basically, the movie is about Peter and his friends being sad over Gwen's death.
Oh! Somebody! Oh!
That's fine. But the film keeps reminding us every 5 minutes. There are so many fade-ins and fade-outs that last 10 or 20 seconds when they should be no more than 5. I don't even think this movie had an editor because so many shots lasted way longer than they should. We get it. They're sad. There's no point in having to remind us all the characters are sad when the movie has already made it clear they're grieving. The dialogue also sounds so forced. I know it's a fan film, but that's no excuse for terrible acting. Everything feels scripted, and there's no chemistry between any of the characters. This movie takes itself so seriously that it ends up ruining itself. Scenes drag on, which causes the entire film to suffer from awful pacing. The movie is just about Peter and his friends being sad over Gwen's death, and it makes you wonder, how is this an enjoyable experience? One of Spider-Man's core aspects is that he always gets back up no matter what. Sure, he hits rock bottom sometimes, but there's no reason to make a 2-hour film about him at his lowest. I didn't even feel like I was watching a Spider-Man film. The acting is terrible, the director is literally racist, and the story is garbage. The only thing I found enjoyable was the last swing scene, and even that's just because the CGI was decent for a fan film. Everything else? Throw it in the trash. This movie tried to be dark and sad. Basically the opposite of Spider-Man. Yes, Spider-Man would be devastated by Gwen's death, but what's the point of making a whole movie about it? There was no character development. Nothing was done to make us care about these characters. They're forgettable because the director didn't bother making them interesting. At least in other adaptations, something stood out about the characters. In Sam Raimi's movies, Harry's character is developed throughout the series. In The Amazing Spider-Man, Gwen has depth instead of just existing for the sole purpose to be in flashbacks. And in the MCU, there's no Harry or Gwen yet, but Ned is a great character and a great friend to Peter.
What are you doing here? There's a dance.
I'm looking at porn.
This movie, though, felt so boring and like a massive waste of time. The script writing is terrible. There are so much scenes that drag on for so much longer than they should. There shouldn't be 10-minute-long scenes that take the story nowhere. The pacing is all over the place. You think you know where the story is heading, but then it takes a 180 and goes somewhere completely different. So much of the runtime is wasted on cheesy dialogue and pointless flashbacks. The director, Gavin, claimed to know the most about Spider-Man out of anyone, but then writes him completely out of character. Peter's actions and words didn't feel like Spider-Man at all. At times, he's such a jerk to his friends that it feels like he's wearing the symbiote suit, and he never apologizes for it. I can't stress this enough. The pacing is unbearably slow. The plot constantly jumps around with random flashbacks, and all the scenes are too slow to be enjoyable, and the editing is just as bad as everything else. This movie claims to be a Spider-Man film, but there's hardly any Spider-Man involved. In total, there's maybe 10 minutes of screen time for Spider-Man, which doesn't make it much of a Spider-Man movie. One thing I want to mention is the scene with the terminally ill kid trying to bring Spider-Man back after Gwen's death. This scene could have saved the movie, but they threw it away. The kid tells Spider-Man that he's his idol and asks him to come back to save the city, but Spider-Man doesn't care and just leaves. Then, when the kid's mom says the same thing, Spider-Man suddenly changes his mind and decides to be a hero again. It doesn't make sense. Peter is a jerk to his friends, and I guess it makes sense for him to be angry because he's grieving. But Peter wouldn't take his anger out on them without the symbiote at least.
Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you really feel?
Hey, don't.
I'm busting my ass out there trying to save you, and this is what I get?
I said don't.
I saw your story.
I tried to tell you about that.
Yeah, but you didn't, did you?
I can't lose this job.
Your job is to write the truth.
I did.
The truth is, I'm the hero here, not you.
There's also the subplot with Harry being a drug addict, but like everything else in this movie, it goes nowhere. This movie suffers from terrible directing and even worse script writing. Neither Spider-Man nor Peter Parker are good characters in this film, and the dialogue is just so bad. In conclusion, this movie is terrible. The directing, the acting, the script, it's all awful. The only thing I enjoyed was the CGI, and that's just because it looked good for a fan film. Everything else sucked, and the movie was an absolute train wreck. A Spider-Man movie shouldn't be sad and edgy. It should be optimistic and lively, just like the character himself. Anyway, I think that's the end of this video. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like or subscribe. As always, have a good day and see you next time.